What's happening, my fellow geeks and geekettes? Welcome to a brand new episode of Chris's Custom Collectibles, and this one is like 2 years overdue. Now, with the spooky season well underway, we are now into the month of October. I figured, finally, better late than never, to do a custom collectible on the Rob Zombie Halloween Michael Myers Dream Sequence Mask from Trick or Treat Studios. I've been after this one for such a long time, and actually it was perfect timing because a friend of mine, Alex, who has also purchased a Freddy bust off my Etsy store whilst I was working on his order, I put an Instagram story up saying, hey, does anyone have this particular mask? More than happy to do a custom collectible on it, free of charge. You just got to ship it to me, and then we'll ship it back. Alex was like, dude, I have it. When you're done with it, you can send it back with a Freddy bust. So it worked out perfectly. Now, Alex also has an Instagram page. You can check it out right here. He has some amazing looking horror collectibles right up my alley, and hopefully yours too. So again, Alex, thank you so much, man. This definitely helps because I've been wanting to do this particular mask for the longest time and give it the custom collectible treatment. These masks are actually really hard to find in Australia, the Rob Zombie line. For some reason, they have every other Trick or Treat Studios Michael Myers mask except the Rob Zombie ones. This is actually a really impressive copy. I must say, Trick or Treat have upped their game with the Rob Zombie Halloween mask line, as opposed to, say, how the 2018 masks look today. There's a lot of detail on this, and this is actually my favorite design out of the entire Rob Zombie films with the looks of the masks, particularly because it's not too ripped away, and I know you don't see much of the mask. It's at the end of the first Halloween, and then the dream sequence at the beginning of the second Halloween in that brutal opening sequence that I wish would just continue for the rest of the film. But going back to the mask, we're going to repaint this, make it look even gnarlier, but I'm also going to reuse the hair. The hair on this is thick and beautiful, so much so I've gone ahead and just slightly ripped up the hairline to reveal where the glue marks are and where to glue down, because we're going to be repainting this mask, and then when done, we're going to glue the hair back down in place and then style the hair with its dready look. So I'm going to turn this Lazy Susan on, and you can have a really good look of how this thing looks as a stock mask. Like I said, I'm quite impressed with the stock paintwork. The crack details are beautiful. It actually is a really crisp casting, which definitely works in our favor. So the first couple of steps before we do our base repaint, we're going to be airbrushing the brand new base color on this mask, and I've obviously gone ahead and ripped up this part of the hairline. We're going to pin that back just with some bobby pins and some tape to tape it all off, and then we also have to clean up the back of the neck here where there's hair glued down and residue and stuff like that, as you can see right there. Give it a wash with some isopropyl alcohol, and then we can get to airbrushing the base layer. So with that being said, let's get to it. Okay, so like I said, our first step is to remove all the glue and hair residue down here that's been left from the artisans gluing all this original hair down. For the most part, you can remove it by hand, but there are some stubborn parts. You just grab some 120 grit sandpaper, just give it a sand. It'll kind of all bunch up together into like a little glue / residue ball. You just pull it off. Just like that. Some parts can get a little bit stubborn and you can up the grit of sandpaper, but you don't want to go too hard because then it can end up stripping the paint and also affecting the sculpt. Okay, so I've pinned the hair up. I've got a mixture of 2 bobby pins on either side and just some like clothesline pegs. So you can see right there the sculpt line where the hair's supposed to go down. So I probably will cover this with a bit of tape as well, just so there's no spray residue that gets on the hair. Even though we're gonna dust it up a little bit, you don't want any big globs of airbrush paint getting onto the hair because it could just ruin how the final product will look. But for the most part, I'm pretty happy of just clearing all this section here and obviously around here. So up next, we're gonna grab some isopropyl alcohol and just spray it on and brush it all over just to get rid of any grease or grime just from my fingers, just from handling the mask in general. That's also gonna help the airbrush paint adhere to the latex. Now, when it comes to the airbrush paint, I've mixed up my own little secret sauce. So it's an eggshell white, and it was actually a mixture of these 3 hobby airbrush paints. So first off, we have a matte white from MIG, which is an acrylic color. We have another acrylic, so this one is a red leather. And then we have a light rust. So it's pretty much eyeballing it until you hit that traditional eggshell white. You don't want a full blown, like say a matte white to spray down because it's just gonna be too harsh. You need an eggshell white. And then once that's done and I'm happy with it, we're gonna do it in stages because you don't wanna glope on a whole bunch at the same time. You kind of gotta do it, mist it on in layers just so you get nice, even coverage. After that, we're gonna seal this up then with a clear plasti dip, let that sit, and then we can move on to the detail work, the fun stuff. Okay, we're gonna load in some paint into the airbrush. Now, you gotta gauge as well how much you want to be sprayed out. You don't want to be going too hard, otherwise you're gonna lose some detail. Alrighty, so now that we've let the brand new base coat and the plasti dip dry, it's time to do a big base wash, get in all the nooks and crannies, remove the excess, and then we can go in and start detailing everything and obviously add the blood gore on the side here. Now, a lot of people have also wondered why I didn't remove the blood. To me, it's fine. Once you coat it with a few coats of plasti dip, it kind of seals it all up and also helps with the flex, so there won't be any cracking there, which is great. So I'm gonna be using a combination of brown and black shoe polish, probably just the littlest bit watered down, but again, we need to make sure we get in all those nooks and crannies, and then we can remove the excess if there's buildup on too many spots, and then we can go in once it's dry with some isopropyl alcohol and wipe down those high areas, revealing and leaving all that detail. So again, I want a really dark brown. You don't want exactly a stark black for this wash, because it is sort of like teetering on a black, but also has hints of brown in there from what I can see for a base wash. So just a very little bit, like a drop. There we go. See, that's pretty good, but just gonna have to water it down just a smidge. Just a bit of water. And it's one of those things where when I do this type of stuff, I just eyeball it. Now take your time as well. You know, it's not overly hot. We don't have to worry about wiping away the excess very quickly because it's not gonna dry too quick on us, but also you just wanna make sure you get into all the cracks and details of this beautiful sculpt. Now keep in mind, this is just a base kind of bulk mass wash. Whatever we miss, we can just go back in and detail later with oil colors and stuff like that. But again, just getting into those cracks as well. And as it's starting to dry, you can kind of just press it in a little bit more, just like so, just by dabbing your brush. And again, I'm really happy with how that kind of brown and black have worked together. It definitely is that happy medium. Right, you're just gonna grab a paper towel and start to dab away the excess, but not too much, because again, we're gonna go back in with some isopropyl alcohol and remove a lot of the bulk, but I don't wanna remove any from the cracks or the really deep recesses of the sculpt. But again, really loving the texture on this particular sculpt. It is a beautiful looking mask. We've let this wash completely dry, especially in all those cracks, crevices, nooks and crannies. So the next step is to wipe away the excess. So we're gonna be using some isopropyl alcohol, but this isn't 99%, this is 64%, because if we use 99%, it can actually bite down into the plasti dip and then into our base coating. So what we're gonna do is grab some cloth, you can grab some paper towel, whatever your fancy is, spray some on the surface and just start to wipe away the excess. So this is very touch and go. It's probably gonna take a little bit, get a little bit fiddly, but just till you reach that nice happy medium, and it just removes it perfectly. And we still have all that beautiful detail in the cracks and recesses. Now, one thing you can also do if it's still a little bit too detailed, spray a bit of ISO on there, and then grab a brush and start to brush away, and then that'll get into all the nooks and crannies. Because it isn't an overly detailed, stony looking mask when you think about it. So this just gets rid of some details that are too recessed in, and then you dab away the excess with a paper towel, and then it's not as coarse as, say, like this area here that we're gonna have to dial back as well. So this looks pretty good here, and I'm gonna repeat this over most of the mask because again, it more or less looks like this as opposed to, say, like this. Now, if you really want to dial back the details on the surface here but still retain a lot of detail in the cracks, you can grab a brush and snip the bristles off. Spray some ISO, and then very lightly just go in there and scrub away. And then that'll get into all the real nitty gritty, tiny little details that you don't necessarily want the wash in, the shoe polish wash in there. And then just wipe away the excess. And again, just chip away at it little bits at a time until you reach that happy medium. But so far, I'm really liking where this is heading. All right, I'm pretty happy with everything being dialed back. There are a few pieces here and there that I could go in and scrub away, but I feel like it's pushing the friendship in terms of the like structural integrity of our base wash and our Plasti Dip. But next up, we're gonna start the detailing phase. So I'm just gonna go in and re-highlight and re-darken a few cracks. I'm just gonna be using this burnt umber oil color. I love working with oil colors. There's something just so easy about them and they just apply really well and in a natural way. Now, the reason why I'm using this instead of a black, the black is too stark. So if we just go in, kind of just highlight there, and also around the perimeter, from what I've seen, there's browning around all the cracked areas, and you just use your finger to smudge away if there's too much. And again, that really highlights all the nastiness of this mask. There we go, look at that, nice and easy. So at the same time, I'm also gonna grab an ivory black and also an olive green. So with the three of these, it's just gonna be a mashup of highlighting the cracks, highlighting just certain surfaces and stuff like that, contouring the nose, the lips and stuff like that with hints of the green. From what I'm seeing, there are little bits of green and stuff like that. Possibly it could be emulating moss or mold and stuff like that. Again, it's just until you reach that happy medium and it brings everything together with those details, because it's looking a little bit flat at the moment, but from what we've done here, and again, you can smudge it off with your finger if it's too much, it just adds a bit of depth to those cracked details. Now, another thing I'm going to do is grab the brown oil color just very sparingly on this brush and dry brush it over the entire surface just to dial back that white and kind of go into like a khaki-esque territory. And that way then these kind of complement each other, all these highlights. See, again, it is very much a back and forth, but just here up on the forehead, you know, we've got the black oil color, the brown, and I'm gonna add that green just a little bit. They seem to complement each other really well here. So the goal for the mask is to get this area here over the entire surface. Alrighty, overall, I'm really happy with how these oil colors have worked and just bringing all these beautiful details out without being too harsh at the same time. You know, the use of the ivory black, the burnt sienna, and the olive green just really complementing each other. Trying not to go too extreme, just trying to keep things subtle. You know, my reference is also a lot of rehaul artists and the wonderful work they do on these particular masks, on the Rob Zombie mask. It's more subtle, but also, you know, a lot of like soiling around the cracks and stuff like that. So in terms of the paint scheme as a base, before we add the gore and the blood, I'm happy to call it a day. So what we're gonna do is glue the hair back down. We're then gonna move on to applying the blood and then obviously styling the hair. There is a very particular style with these masks, you know, I wouldn't say dreadlocky, but at the same time, there's a lot of clumps, there's bits hanging over, like almost emo-like, you know, bits of hair hanging over here to really complement the final look. Now to glue the hair back down, I'm just gonna use some good old-fashioned cheap and nasty super glue, this stuff you get from Bunnings, and like for a pack of, I think 8, it's like $1.70, so you cannot go wrong. So of course, gluing this back down along the sculpt line here, all the way back down to the side here as well. Now for the blood, I'm gonna try something very new and something that I've been tinkering with, perma blood. Now this isn't the packaging it comes in. This actually came from my good friend Seven Sin Studios when I got a Myers mask from him. He included this and they're like little prop blood vials, which is very cool. But I've heard very good things about perma blood, especially when it comes to latex masks and flexing with the rubber. So I've got a darker dry blood and a much more fresh looking blood. So a very big thank you to 7 Sins Studios for sending this through, but I'll overlay what the permablood packaging looks like. But yeah, I've been recommended this stuff for latex masks and the flex. So once that's done, we're gonna style the hair and call it a day. So you just need a little dab will do you. So just do that there, a little bit up there. So we just want to do bits at a time. Now this stuff can be quite tenacious and also stick your fingers together instantly. So you want to be a little bit careful when handling this stuff. You know, give it a little patter here and there like that. There we go. How good's that?
Ooh, you didn't think I was going to do any shitty commentary, didn't you? So when it came to these two variations of the permablood, we've got the fresher one and the darker one. I mostly lean towards the darker one. To me, a good gore blood effect is a bit of darkness added in there, just like as if it's caked on, it's starting to dry and kind of coagulate. And also just following the spray patterns, because there is a certain pattern to how this looks, especially when it comes to referencing the screen use mask. So there's like streaks going down the lips, there's that smudge part that you can see right there that I'm doing just at the hairline. There's also some blood spray on the neck as well. I guess you could say it's sort of subjective, you know, some of the masks have different markings and stuff like that, but overall I was really happy with the happy medium that I met with the blood effect. Now for the hair, it's just some water in a spray bottle and some VO5 firm hold. I use this for most of my Mize masks and just styling hair in general when it comes to props. Now this hair was tightly bunched together. This got very fiddly and also resulted in some hair being lost, but that's going to happen regardless, and just making those dreadlocks, those really thin dreadlocks, and also thinning the hair out at the back. And once I was happy with that, I sprayed a shitload on it, and now we're ready for the final reveal. And there we have it, guys. The Trick or Treat Studios Rob Zombie's Halloween 2 Dream Sequence mask is done and dusted. This was a lot of fun to do. These sculpts are beautiful, particularly this copy. This is a nice sharp casting, and a big thank you to Alex for sending this to me to pimp out. This is a lot of fun. I would like to have a crack of the more revealed mask from Halloween 2 and also the Rob Zombie Halloween 1 mask. With that being said, wherever you are in the world, please have yourselves an absolute cracker of a day. I hope you will. Hope you're happy. Be merry, be silly. And until next time, ghouls and ghoulettes, please always remember, cosplayers do it best.